Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Iran launches more than 200 drones and missiles at Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is ready for any scenario. UN chief condemns serious escalation by Iran, urges maximum restraint. Campaigning in full swing for the first phase of India's general elections. BJP to release its manifesto for Lok Sabha polls in New Delhi today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other top leaders to be present. And in Asian Wrestling Championships, India's Radhika clinches silver medal while Shivani Pawar settles for bronze. Iran launched a swarm of explosive drones and fired missiles at Israel late on Saturday in its first ever direct attack on Israeli territory, risking a major escalation as the United States pledged ironclad backing for Israel. Israel's military spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said that Iran launched dozens of ground-to-ground missiles at Israel, most of which were intercepted outside Israeli borders. They included more than 10 cruise missiles. The Iranian salvo amounted to more than 200 drones and missiles so far. Hagari said that it had caused light damage to one Israeli military facility. The Israeli military said later that it was not advising any residents to prepare to take shelter, revising an earlier alert in what appeared to signal the end of the threat. Iran has vowed retaliation for what it called an Israeli strike on its Damascus consulate on 1st April that killed 7 guard officers, including 2 senior commanders. Israel has neither confirmed nor denied responsibility for the consulate attack. Israel's military said it was sounding sirens in locations throughout the country early on Sunday, and people in Jerusalem heard explosions from what local TV showed were aerial interceptions of the drones launched by Iran. A barrage of objects were seen flying through the sky from Bethlehem, West Bank in the early hours of Sunday, as drones and missile attacks from Iran are expected to continue towards Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu was speaking to US President Joe Biden earlier on Sunday at the conclusion of meetings by Israel's War Cabinet and Security Cabinet to discuss hostilities with Iran. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned Iran's attack on Israel and called for restraint and an immediate cessation of hostilities. World leaders have condemned Iran's attack against Israel on Saturday. In a post on X, US President Joe Biden reaffirmed his country's ironclad support to Israel against threats from Iran and its proxies. European Union and its member countries Spain, Denmark, France, Netherlands and Norway have also condemned the attack. EU's top diplomat Josep Borrell termed this attack as an unprecedented escalation. Canadian Prime Minister also supported Israel's right to defend itself and its people from these attacks. Meanwhile, Israel has requested an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council to condemn Iran's attack on Israel and designate the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps a terrorist organization. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, said that the Iranian attack is a serious threat to global peace and security and asked the Council to use every means to take concrete action against Iran. DD India's Caroline Malone joins us from Washington for more updates. Caroline, good morning. Now, we've seen in the past how the two countries, Israel and Iran, have long been engaged in a shadow war. How do we see the severity and the gravity of the situation now?
Well, certainly what's happened over Saturday is unprecedented. And this is the first time that Iran has attacked Israel from its own country. And in some cases, we understand some of the missiles and drones have actually hit Israel. Now, early reports suggest minor destruction, just not as bad as it could be by any means, because a lot of these drones were actually shot down, and they were shot down in part by the US. Security sources saying that the US actually shot down a number of drones that were flying over Syria. So they did, as they said they would, help to defend Israel and make sure that they are in this ironclad commitment with Israel. Now, US President Joe Biden has been speaking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the phone just a short time ago. We're waiting for a full readout of that call to find out what they discussed. But likely what they're talking about is, how bad is the destruction in Israel? Is it bad at all? It doesn't look like it is. And what's next? We've heard from the Israeli side that they want to have a United Nations special meeting on Sunday, likely at 4 p.m. local time in the United States, where the headquarters is of the UN. But Israel has said that it will respond, and Iran has warned against that. Iran has also warned against the US becoming involved in any kind of retaliation. What we don't know is if Iran will interpret the US shooting down some of its drones as becoming involved at this stage.
All right, Caroline, what kind of role could the US play at this point in time? Because you are talking of how skeptical Iran is about US's involvement in the whole situation.
Absolutely. Well, we did have warning about these attacks from Iran. They've been talking about them for a number of days, so it wasn't unexpected. The US had been engaging in diplomacy to try and stop Tehran from acting. Clearly that didn't work. But at the same time, they were expecting something, and they actually moved some of their US military assets into the region. A number of warships that are capable, in some cases, of bringing down missiles. So the US has acted in a way that is defensive. They're doing essentially what they said they would do, which is stand up for Israel's defense. And they're on alert now and in the region and prepared for any further attacks. Although at this point, Iran has said that it has finished with its attacks, it's finished with its retaliation, but it's watching out to see if Israel makes any more, quote, mistakes. The Iranian ambassador to the United Nations speaking earlier and saying that this is the end of what they're planning to do in this series, but that Israel shouldn't act any further, and the US should not get involved either. I mean, the US has already been involved in pushing back some other attacks in the region, in particular Houthi militants from Yemen, who are also thought to be backed by Iran, who've been attacking a number of commercial ships, particularly in the Red Sea. They, along with the UK and in the support of many other allies, have been trying to stop those attacks on commercial ships. The Houthis saying that it has to do with connection to Israel, international shipping community saying otherwise. But they've been calling for those attacks to stop. But it does mean that there are a lot more US forces in the region than there might be otherwise already. And the UK as well has already scrambled its RAF, its Air Force, into the region as well. We know that Jordan, which is a neighbouring country, also shot down some of the drones that came from Iran. So there are a number of people in the region that are acting to try and de-escalate, essentially, this situation. And the United Nations as well, United Nations Secretary General, condemning this attack and really calling for all sides to be very cautious now.
Caroline, can you also spell out more details on any response from Israel on this? Is it really directly prepared to take on Iran? And more so, how do we see the situation further build up from here on?
Well, it's hard to say at the moment, but I think if Israel has called for an emergency United Nations meeting on Sunday, it is unlikely that they would act before that. But, anything's possible, really. We are in unprecedented times in terms of this type of attack between Iran and Israel happening. Israel did conduct an attack on a Damascus compound, though, on a Iranian compound, embassy compound in Damascus, and that in itself is deemed under international law to be against regulations because it was on a diplomatic compound there and did in fact result in the death of a number of special forces from Iran's military as well as others, including diplomats. So You know, this is a difficult time. It's hard to know what's going to happen next. It seems that Israel has managed to defend itself strongly with the help of its allies and stop the majority, it says, of those drones from reaching Israel, although there is some likelihood that at least one or two have, including on a military compound, and some reports of some injuries, including to a child. So we'll have to wait and see when, you know, daylight hits, really, how bad this attack has affected Israel, how bad it's affected the people there, and if indeed Israel decides to respond.
All right, Caroline, thank you so much for joining in with those details. We'll have to see how the days ahead pan out. So that was our correspondent Caroline joining us from Washington and analyzing the situation for us. As we know, Iran has in fact put forth a number of drone attacks against Israel. We'll have to see how the situation further builds up. In other news, Hamas has rejected an Israeli ceasefire proposal, saying it has handed to mediators in Egypt and Qatar its response to the proposal it had received last Monday. After more than 6 months of conflict with Israel and Gaza, the negotiations remain deadlocked, with Hamas sticking to its demands that any agreement must end the conflict. Israel wants to secure the return of hostages seized by Hamas in its October 7th attack that triggered the conflict, but says it will not stop fighting until Hamas is destroyed as a military force. It also says it still plans to carry out an assault on the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Hamas said on Saturday that it was ready to conclude a prisoners for hostages swap deal with Israel that would see the release of 133 hostages still believed to be held in Gaza in return for hundreds of Palestinians jailed in Israel. There was no official Israeli comment on Hamas's response. The level of the Ural River in the Russian city of Orenburg reached 11.83 meters on Saturday. Major rivers in the region have burst their banks due to a historic deluge of melting snow. Authorities in the city called on thousands of residents to evacuate immediately due to rapidly rising floodwaters. Water was also seen rising sharply in another Russian region, Kurgan. Kurgan's governor, Vadim Shumkov, said that a deluge could reach Kurgan in the coming days. The level of the Tobol River, which flows throughout the city, may reach 9 to 11 meters. Up next, we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the globe now. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro on Saturday proposed a constitutional reform to include life imprisonment for crimes of corruption and treason. The proposal of the left-wing leader comes after the corruption scandal in which former oil minister Tariq al-Aissami was arrested this week. The Venezuelan constitution establishes that custodial sentences do not exceed 30 years in prison. Last of the 174 passengers who were stranded on cable cars were rescued by helicopters in Turkey on Saturday. One person was killed and 10 others were injured in southern Turkish province of Antalya when a cable car cabin collided with a broken pole, prompting a massive rescue operation that lasted 23 hours. Up next, we're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his UK counterpart David Cameron to discuss West Asia situation and bilateral ties. India marks the birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chief architect of the Indian Constitution.
We are joined by India's ace shooter Rudraksh Patil, who in a short span of time has won multiple medals at the international level.
Back to all of these matches have been very memorable to me. I cherish those matches a lot because all of these matches, not only I played them for the first time, but I was able to win over there also.
You earned the quota for the country in 10-meter air rifle. What a great achievement at such a young age.
So it was quite a very unique experience for me, which was coming with World Championship. I think so. The first thing which I was very proud was that I made India great over there and I could bring the quota.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. In more news, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar spoke to his UK counterpart David Cameron on Saturday night. Both the leaders discussed the emerging situation in West Asia and also the bilateral ties between the two countries. All right, let's now get to the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. India's ruling party, Bharatiya Janata Party, is set to unveil its manifesto called Sankalp Yatra for the 2024 general elections today. The manifesto will be released at the party headquarters in New Delhi in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other top leaders. The manifesto committee, headed by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, has already held 2 meetings. The BJP has received over 1.5 million suggestions for its manifesto, including over 400,000 through the Namo app and over 1.1 million through videos. The BJP's manifesto is likely to focus on development across different sections of the country, primarily the youth, women, farmers and the poor. Campaigning gains pace for the first phase of India's general elections 2024. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to hold a public meeting in the states of Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka today. Prime Minister will attend and address a public meeting in Hoshangabad district of Madhya Pradesh. Later in the evening, Prime Minister will address a public meeting and hold roadshow in Karnataka. India's BJP senior leader and Union Home Minister is set to address a public meeting in the states of Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra today. Amit Shah will address a public meeting in Khairagarh district of Rajnandgaon, Lok Sabha constituency of Chhattisgarh. Later in the evening, he will address a public meeting in Sakoli city of Maharashtra. India's Congress Party on Saturday announced a list of 16 more candidates for the states of Chandigarh, Himachal Pradesh, Odisha and Chhattisgarh. The party has fielded Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Vikramaditya Singh, son of state's former Chief Minister late Veerbhadra Singh, against BJP's candidate Kangana Ranaut from Mandi. Former Union Minister Manish Tiwari will fight from Chandigarh Lok Sabha seat. The youth of Naxal-affected Balaghat district of Madhya Pradesh seem to be very excited about the elections these days. The youth are telling people the importance of voting through songs and street plays at local squares and parks. Not only this, youth in Naxal-affected areas are also very enthusiastic about voting. DD India's Aditya Srivastav gets us more.
Balaghat district of the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh is a Naxal-affected district. Despite this, more than 80% voting took place in the district in the assembly elections held 5 months ago. In the Balaghat district, the number of female voters is more than male voters. The youth of the city are excited to vote as they believe that as more people vote, the stronger democracy will be. They are motivating people to vote by singing songs and performing street plays in various squares and parks of the city.
People have sacrificed a lot to make our country democratic, and in democracy we have the right to vote. The sex ratio of Balaghat is more of women rather than of men.
Women power should not be considered as a bank of vote, but should be made a means of empowerment.
About 40,000 voters in Balaghat district are aged between 18 and 19 years. District election officer said that they are hopeful that voting percentage in Balaghat may reach 85% this time. He said that support is being received from every section of society to increase the voting percentage.
As far as our district is concerned, we have made a customized sweep plan for every segment of the people. Especially if we talk about new voters, we have almost 40,000 18 to 19 cohort voters, first time voters. Definitely our sweep activities are very well planned, and we are working that every segment of the society, whether it is senior citizens, whether it's women or new voters, or if we talk about social sector, then specifically tribal groups, we are working in each and every segment. So we are very hopeful that we will touch almost 85% milestone for vote cast as far as our Balaghat district is concerned.
In the assembly elections held 5 months ago, around 90% voting took place in the Naxal-affected and tribal-dominated areas of Baihar, Lanji and Parswara. Aditya Srivastav's report, DD India, Balaghat.
14th April marks the birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a prominent figure in India's history and the chief architect of the Indian Constitution. Here's a report. Take a look.
Born on April 14, 1891 in Madhya Pradesh, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar overcame immense adversity to become one of the most essential leaders of modern India. As the chairman of the drafting committee of the Indian Constitution, he played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's foundational document, ensuring principles of equality, justice, and liberty for all citizens. Dr. Ambedkar's contributions extend beyond his role in drafting the Constitution. He dedicated his life to the upliftment of Dalits, formerly known as untouchables, and fought against social discrimination and inequality. His teachings on social justice, equality, and education remain relevant and impactful to this day. Many are using this day as an opportunity to renew their commitment to fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. Every year on 14th April, various events and ceremonies are held across the country to commemorate Dr. Ambedkar's birth anniversary. From educational institutions to government offices and community centers, people from all walks of life pay tribute to his enduring legacy. The birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is not merely a day of celebration, but also a moment of contemplation and action. His vision for a fair and egalitarian society continues to guide India's journey towards progress and prosperity. By honoring his memory, Indians reaffirm their dedication to uphold the values which Dr. Ambedkar tirelessly advocated throughout his life. Kriti Vadera for DD India.
And let's take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India now. India celebrates 6th day of Navratri. The temples recited prayers to Goddess Durga while a large number of devotees gather to offer prayers and take part in the morning prayers to commence the 6th day of the 9-day Hindu festival of Navratri. Responding to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's call to preserve and celebrate India's rich spiritual and cultural heritage, ambassadors and diplomats of 25 nations descended on Varanasi, one of the country's most ancient pilgrimage sites in Uttar Pradesh. Fireworks adorn the skies of Golden Temple in India's Amritsar on the occasion of Vaisakhi. The festival is also known as the Harvest Festival of Punjab state. Vaisakhi marks the beginning of the Sikh New Year. Gathered devotees witnessed fireworks that adorned the sky around the temple. The second edition of the Janakpur Dham Cultural Festival, coinciding with the Bikram Sambat Nepali New Year 2081, was organized by the Indian Embassy in Nepal's Janakpur on Saturday. The festival celebrated the shared cultural heritage of India and Nepal, reflecting on the common traditions of art, culture and festivals of the two countries. The festival included exhibitions of the saris, which are a common attire for women in India as well as Nepal. The festival also included a photo exhibition on the forts of India and Nepal, a Maithili food festival curated by celebrated chef Santosh Shah offered 54 food items serving various local delicacies. Musical performances of bhajans and a performance by celebrated Nepali singer Menika Podel also marked the event. All right, on to sports now. India's Radhika clinched a silver medal in the women's 68 kg, while Shivani Pawar won a bronze medal in the women's 50 kg at the Asian Wrestling Championships on Saturday. Radhika lost the final by technical superiority to two-time world champion Nonoka Ozaki of Japan. However, confirmed the second silver medal for India in this competition. Radhika made it to the final after the two dominating wins in the entire round, in the earlier rounds in fact. She pinned the home favourite Gulnura Tashtan Bekova in the semis to in fact book a place in the final. Meanwhile, Shivani Pawar upset the two-time world silver medalist Dolgor Yevhen Odgonjogar of Mongolia in a very close bronze medal bout. She was trailing for the major portion of the match but bounced back with a two-pointer turnover in the final 5 seconds to clinch the medal. Reigning Asian Games champion Palak and Sanyam kept the Indian shooting squad on course for a 20th Paris Games quota place as they stormed into the final at ISSF Final Olympic Qualification Shooting Tournament in Brazil on Saturday. Palak shot a score of 578 in the first qualification relay. Meanwhile, Sanyam shot an identical score in the second round to take the 6th and 7th qualification spots. This has given India a boost in their endeavour to grab one of the two available quota places. India's third entrant, Surbhi Rao, also shot 578 but missed out on making the top 8 on lesser hits in the inner 10 ring. The final will be held on Sunday. Alright, IPL action now. The Kolkata Knight Riders will look to get back to winning ways as they face Lucknow Super Giants on Sunday in the 28th match of the IPL at Eden Gardens. Shreyas Iyer-led side is having a phenomenal season so far with 3 wins in 4 matches and are currently at number 2 on the points table. Also, Lucknow are currently at 4th place in the IPL standings with 3 wins in the 5 matches. KL Rahul-led side lost their last match to Delhi Capitals by 6 wickets. Lucknow will now be looking to revive themselves to winning ways against Kolkata on Sunday. Alright, that's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.